Abu Dhabi, 1970 versus now. '70s participants of the No Bra movement. Wayne Gretzky is widely considered the greatest hockey player of all time. A mother and her child in Spitalfields, one of the worst slums in London, 1903. John Lennon and Yoko Ono bought a large billboard in Times Square in 1969, declaring that war is over if you want it. Citizens of Boron City are waiting for the Virgin Mary to appear at the viaduct. It's not far from the Christian school, where children supposedly saw her the day before. This was in Belgium, in 1933. 1918. Estonians declared independence from the Russian Empire. They established a Democratic Republic of Estonia. A British soldier is scolding a German civilian for laughing while watching a screening about concentration camp conditions. The woman was told to re-watch the film. This all happened in May of 1945. A New York construction worker is walking along a girder high above the city streets, around 1950. A Soviet woman who lost 7 sons during World War II. Drummer Girls, May 1942, Southington, Connecticut. An American town and its way of life. Southington Girls, members of the Youth Drum Corps. New York, 1950. Charles Dunn swung and missed the ball during a training session for his PAL team in Brooklyn, New York. The date was June 9, 1943. A Girl and Her Kitten, 1931. Dutch civilians are dancing in the streets. This happened after the liberation of Eindhoven by Allied forces in 1944. It was known as an auto thriller, which was basically a roller coaster for your car, from 1929. Mobile swimming pools were a popular way to cool off in larger cities in America in the 1960s. There were Russian peasants from the anti-communist Tambov Rebellion in 1921. The Tambov Rebellion was a massive peasant uprising against the Bolshevik government in Tambov Governorate, Russia, during the Civil War. This exercise machine was designed to roll the fat out of legs back in 1936. The description says that children in Northern Europe are celebrating Fastelavn. Paula and the kitten both smiled for the camera at the same time. But the cat's not smiling, he's meowing, 1955. There was a train collision on the Chicago Subway North Line. It happened between Harrison Street and Wabash Avenue stations on May 24, 1953. A Father and Son in Italy in 1962. Shaven, barefooted Jewish lawyer Dr. Michael Siegel is under SS custody. He's got a sign that says, "I will never again complain to the police," and he's being marched across Stackus Square in Bavaria. This happened on March 10, 1933. The governments of the Soviet Union and the Empire of Japan signed the Neutrality Pact on April 13, 1941. It was a 5-year agreement of non-aggression. The Soviet side later terminated it in 1945 because of the Yalta Agreements. Madame Inès de Courcelles, one of the first female taxi drivers in Paris, 1908. A world record 384-pound black sea bass was caught by Franklin Schenck of Brooklyn with a rod and reel off Catalina Island, California on August 17, 1900. Fighting fit. Baby boys are given tiny boxing gloves and a makeshift boxing ring. There's a woman from the harem of the Maharaja of Jaipur, Ram Singh II. This was around 1857. Florence Thompson, the migrant mother in Dorothea Lange's famous 1936 photo, is holding up her likeness during an interview after her identity was made known on October 10, 1978. Nobuo Fujita, a Japanese pilot, was the only person to ever bomb the contiguous United States of America. After the war, he was invited back to the same town he bombed, Brookings, Oregon. It's a tightrope walker's wedding. This took place in France in 1959. Construction of the Rome subway was happening under the grounds of the Colosseum in 1939. Jewish civilians during the destruction of the Warsaw Ghetto, Poland, in 1943. Two girls are sitting near a turkey-shaped mural made of apples in West Virginia, USA, 1939. German military chaplains, including Franz Justus Rakowski, the Catholic field bishop of the Wehrmacht, who's in front with the large cross and trench coat, after a church service in France in 1943. Computing Division, United States of America, 1924. The children seem to be quite poor. This is taking place in East London around 1890. The Hungarian engineer Stefan Nailed is standing near the machine he invented. Supposedly it made people and inanimate objects invisible. This was in 1935. Dublin, 1972. A girl gathers coal that's fallen from a truck. Here's a demonstration of one of the first chainsaw models in history. This took place in Berlin in 1931. The American-made tank, America, was designed by Professor E.F. Miller in 1918. 1890s New Zealand. There's the chief of the Tuho tribe, Tuta Kangahau. He's the man in the cloak, and he's with his son, Tukuatarangi. The location isn't specified. There are Polish TKS-3 tankettes and soldiers on bicycles from the Polish Army during a field training exercise. This was in the Second Polish Republic, around September 1938. German troops capture a French tanker from his Char B-1. Despite fielding a powerful army, the French are caught unprepared, demoralized, and fragmented. They collapse in 6 weeks. 1940. A girl is learning photography and cinema in Bali in 1934. There are men in Harlem gathered in front of a shop. They're listening to the radio. This was in 1940. It was 1956. It's a Yugoslav album cover from 1972. It's an open-air school in the Netherlands from 1957. Adolf Hitler, Joseph Goebbels, and Hermann Göring are at the opening of the Nazi Party's 1936 to 1937 Winter Relief Campaign. Winter Relief of the German People was a charitable organization established by the Nazi regime in 1933. A firework from Payne's Fireworks Factory in London, 1928. A circus performer in Germany around 1930. Mahatma Gandhi, a prominent figure in the Indian independence movement, was born in 1869. He became a leader in 1915. He spent over 2 decades in South Africa advocating for the rights of Indians. Gandhi's strategy of nonviolent resistance, or satyagraha, led to India's independence in 1947. He was assassinated in 1948. Benito Mussolini's mugshot, 1903. Sorting parcels for foreign mail in 1915. Viet Cong fighters are taking position in a lotus field. They're getting ready to ambush American troops stationed in South Vietnam. The year is 1969. There's nothing quite like getting hand-delivered mail. 1900. A miner from England is sitting down for dinner with his wife. It's after a long day at work in 1937. A portrait of 10 chiefs was taken in 1891. Venice, Italy, around 1900. William Hearns left this note scrawled in lipstick on the wall of Frances Brown's Chicago apartment. Just before writing this message, Hearns stabbed Brown to death and left a knife sticking out of her neck in 1945. A Nez Perce warrior wearing a loincloth and moccasins is on horseback. This was in the USA in 1907. The 1930s saw the rise of the tattoo parlor as a more established concept. It was moving beyond just being associated with sailors, criminals, and circus performers, though these groups remained significant customers. Armed students are leaving Straight Hall at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. The students had barricaded themselves in the building, demanding a degree-granting African American Studies program in 1969. The first interracial marriage in Mississippi happened in 1970. 3 years earlier, the 1967 Loving v. Virginia Supreme Court ruling legalized interracial marriage in the United States. A machine for processing statistical data from the 1931 census. Hulk Hogan vs. Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 6 in 1990. (1927) Montana, Chief of the Crow Indian Reservation. John Grizzly Adams with a bear in 1856. Adams trained and often wrestled with grizzly bears. During one bout, a grizzly struck him in the head, dislodging his scalp and leaving him with permanent head trauma. Navy Chaplain O. David Herman, attached to a Marine unit on Saipan, is using a destroyed Japanese tank as an altar while he holds services for the dead. This happened in 1944. Elgin, Illinois, around 1956. A pony is eating cake at a birthday party. Winston Churchill and Charlie Chaplin in Hollywood, 1929. Linda Evangelista and George Michael in 1992. There's a little kitten standing on the shoulder of a British Royal Air Force fighter pilot. This was around 1944. Here's a newspaper article about Trump evicting stroke victim Mary Filan from one of his apartments. It's dated May 5, 1980. Foghorn Clancy Jr., one of the youngest members of the Big Rodeo and Passing in the West, will perform for visiting Shriners in 1923. There's a stroller with a radio, including an antenna and a loudspeaker. It was designed to keep the baby quiet. This was in the United States back in 1921. Eugenia Dunbar, Mary Moose, and 2 children were in Washington, D.C. The women playfully let their pet ducklings, named Diddles and Tommy, swim in a public horse watering trough in 1927. French farmers and their sheep are protesting at the Eiffel Tower against the construction of a military base on their land in 1972. A dock stevedore is at the New York Fulton Fish Market. He's holding a lobster and a giant lobster claw. This was in 1943. Before his presidency began, John F. Kennedy was just an underdog candidate hoping to somehow win. He campaigns in West Virginia in 1960. The 79th floor of the Empire State Building after being struck by a B-25 bomber, 1945. A kitten, playing a photographer in 1956. The Day of German Troops, a pro-war rally. It was organized by the ethnic German minority party, the German Party, in the Slovak Republic. They were supporting the German Reich and the troops fighting in World War II back in 1940. This was a state-of-the-art piece of armor. It was worn by golf course workers when they were sent out to retrieve range balls in the 1920s. An army unit is exercising. This is in New York, USA in 1918. The remains of the Soviet jet laboratory train. The young escapologist in the 1860s. Two men are drinking from segregated water fountains. Where this is and when it's happening isn't mentioned. This is a portrait of an unknown woman. She's holding a pigeon in her palm. This was taken in New Athens, Ohio in the late 1890s. "1940s. I would love to know what's going on. Her joy is infectious." "1917. A manual training class at the Franklin Summer Open Air School in Chicago. Orson Welles and his assistant, George, whose nickname was Shorty, are pulling Rita Hayworth out of a box. This was during a magic trick reveal at the debut of the Wells Mercury Wonder Show. It was August 3rd, 1943. It's a charity thing, 1982. You could hit a car for $1, all to help families hurt by the problems in the auto industry. In the 70s, Japanese cars started beating out the American ones. This caused a lot of people to lose their jobs, and they started smashing up foreign cars as a symbol. There's a group of musicians on a rocky riverbank. Behind them, there's a waterfall. This was at the first Virginia Music Festival held in 1931. In 1969, the Black Panthers started free breakfast programs all over the United States. They were feeding thousands of kids before school. The FBI thought it was a threat. In some cities, the police raided kitchens, broke food, and even peed on the supplies to stop the programs. The photograph from the 1980s shows the American suspense writer Stephen King with his adorable kittens. The good old days of home-delivered milk and cream. How many people remember this? Unfortunately, I do, from the late 1940s or early 1950s. Former United States Secretary of State Henry Kissinger is giving a lecture at the Sheraton Hotel. This took place in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, in 1992. October of 1942, Hardwick, Vermont. Mrs. Alice White is at the Victory Store's vegetable counter. She's selling donated farm produce, and the money goes to the War Fund. During the 1930s, a bank robber named Pretty Boy Floyd was known for destroying mortgage papers on heists, freeing hundreds of people from property debt. British actress Barbara Roscoe is cooking, and she's also using a hairdryer in her home around 1963. Marines on Peleliu Islands, World War II. A mother and her child are holding hands while they watch a cross burn. This took place in Georgia on April 27, 1956.